Alright, let's get into some movie pairings. Well, a movie pairing. And actually, this one's not even a movie pairing. I told you things were going to get weird this episode. When I was trying to come up with a movie to pair with Flanders Red, I ran into a dead end. I was going to talk about Man Bites Dog, a Belgian crime mockumentary from 1992. But in addition to not having seen that movie in at least 20 years, I just wasn't sure it matched up with the beer style. It's a black comedy, so it should be paired with a dark beer. A Belgian dark strong ale or something. Not a Flanders Red. Then I tried to find a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie that would work, and that was a dead end too. But then our good buddy Thomas came to the rescue. The last time I saw him, I laid out my dilemma. He then recommended the Simpsons movie. Because Ned fucking Flanders. Stroke of genius. However, I'm not going to do the Simpsons movie because it doesn't have enough Ned Flanders in it. If my pairing hinges on the name synchrony, then I need a lot of Flanders. This is why I'm going to pair a Flanders Red with a rundown of my favorite Ned Flanders episodes of The Simpsons. Now, I stopped watching The Simpsons obsessively when I went to college way back in 1999, which is not to say that I don't go on a bender from time to time, but I stick with the early stuff. The show's been on the air for multiple decades now, and I've just always been drawn to the ones I watched when I was younger. That's not to say the new ones are garbage in comparison. There's a lot of heated debate on the topic, and I don't want to get drawn into that shit show. I'm just saying that, personally, I prefer the 90s iteration of The Simpsons. The new ones I've seen just leave me cold. The heart of the show I loved isn't there anymore. Like, all the celebrities that do cameos on the show are just playing themselves. The main characters have become the cliches they were originally riffing on, and it's just lost its sense of satire. I could go on and on about why the new ones are not as good, but that's exactly what I said I didn't want to do, so we're going to try to move on here. The point I was trying to make was that all of my Best of Flanders episodes are from the first 10 seasons. I went with 7 episodes that I think give us the best that Ned Flanders has to offer. The first one, chronologically, is episode 6 of season 2, Dead Putting Society. This is the one where Bart and Todd Flanders enter a miniature golf tournament. Homer convinces Flanders to make a wager on the match, wherein the father of the boy who loses has to mow the other's lawn in their wife's Sunday dress. That was the first episode to feature Flanders in a prominent role, and it was the first appearance of Maude and Rod Flanders. It's got some great Flanders in it, but it also has some really great Homer bits, like how he gets offended at how nice the Flanders house is, and how even in his rage, he will still take another sandwich for the road. What it really does, though, is set up what a garbage neighbor Homer is, and what a loving, caring, decent neighbor Flanders is. That's the bedrock of their dynamic, and this episode shows us that in detail. It also sets us up for our next Flanders episode, the third one of season 3, called When Flanders Failed. At the start of this one, Ned throws a barbecue to announce that he's opening his own business. Called the Leftorium, it is designed specifically with lefties in mind. Homer wants nothing more than for the Leftorium to fail, and so he repeatedly fails to help Ned's business when the opportunity arises. Of course, by the end, Homer sees that Flanders is ruined, and feeling sufficiently guilty, decides to finally give Flanders the help he so desperately needs. He gets all the lefties in town to go to the shop, and the day is saved. It echoes the end of It's a Wonderful Life, and it's a really touching into a plotline where Homer was a real piece of shit for the majority of the episode. Some great Flanders bits include talking about how he used to turn to the Bible in times of need, but now he can't because he sold his Bible to Homer for 7 cents. When the guy asks if he validates parking without purchase, Flanders says, "Oh, right as rain," or as we say around here, left as rain. To which the guy bluntly says, "Just stamp the ticket." There's lots of depressingly optimistic Flanders family bits in this one. Sleeping in their car, singing hymns or whatever, that's brutal. Oh, the bit where Flanders says that once the Leftorium shuts down, it will become Libertarian Party headquarters, and he hopes that they'll have better luck than he did. That's good stuff. Next up is Season 5, Episode 16, titled Homer Loves Flanders. This is the one where Flanders wins the affection of Homer by inviting him along to a sold-out football game. Homer is initially embarrassed to be seen with Flanders, but by the end of the game, he's proud to call Flanders his friend. But Flanders learns that having Homer as a friend is not all it's cracked up to be. The episode culminates with Flanders losing it and shouting at Homer during church service. Of course, by now, Ned's good influence has made Homer more respectable with their peers, and the churchgoers turn on Ned. leaving it up to Homer to stick up for his friend. There's a lot of great pop culture stuff in this one, references to the Ten Commandments and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, some musical references that range from Eddie Money to the Village People to the Beatles. As far as Flanders stuff goes, there's him calling out Moe for reading to sick children, which Moe is desperate to keep a secret. When he wins the football tickets, Flanders asks for their cash value so he can report it on his income tax. When he sees that Homer was about to crack his skull with a pipe, he takes it in stride, saying, "Were you gonna give my noggin a flogging?" So dumb. What else? Get out the Crayolas and color me tickled pink. That's some primo Flanders. And you may be wondering what any of this has to do with a Flanders Red Ale, or which Flanders Red Ale you're supposed to pair with all these Simpsons episodes. Well, I'm going to say you should drink a Duchess de Bourgogne while watching these, but I don't have a really solid foundation as to why. Mostly because I think it's the easiest one to track down. This one is really all about the name, which is not to say it isn't a solid pairing. There's a lot of complexity to these old Simpsons episodes, after all. They are funny, and sad, and infuriating, and sappy, and bittersweet. And especially when they were just getting started, they were very technically challenging to produce and time-consuming. So I guess they have more in common with the Flanders Red than I initially gave them credit for. So yeah, I guess never mind. This one is definitely a well-thought-out pairing. I really nailed it here. Let's get back into it. Next up, Season 6, Episode 1, Bard of Darkness. This one doesn't have a ton of Flanders in it, but he is peripherally important to the main plot. This is the one where the Simpsons get a pool to combat the heat wave. Bart ends up breaking his leg, relegating him to his room for the rest of the summer. He uses his telescope to spy on the neighborhood, and eventually sees what looks like Ned Flanders covering up a murder. It's all a pretty spot-on parody of Rear Window. The reason I included it here is because of three things. One, Flanders screaming, "I'm a diddly-erdler," is never going to stop being funny. Two, his womanly scream presented with his wife's dead ficus. And three, and this is actually a Maud Flanders line, but it's so good. Whenever she says she was at Bible camp, learning to be more judgmental. That's a classic Simpsons zinger. And that brings us to Home Sweet Home Diddly Dum Doodly, the third episode of Season 7. This one sees the Simpson kids being put into the custody of the Flanders as their parents are forced to attend parenting classes. This leads to some great scenes of culture shock on both sides. The Flanders kids, Rod and Todd, are warped by Itchy and Scratchy, while Bart and Lisa have to deal with honey on pancakes instead of maple syrup, non-fat ice milk, and the fact that the Flanderses read Newsweek instead of nothing. This all culminates with Ned trying to give the kids an impromptu baptism, with Marge and Homer racing to stop him. I think this is one of my all-time favorite Simpsons episodes. It's heartfelt, but it's also just crammed full of gags. It's hilarious from start to finish. And while the Simpsons and Flanders families are the main focus, there are so many ancillary character bits that are great too. It's just perfect. It's what made The Simpsons so great, all rolled into one episode. Anyway, next up is Hurricane Nettie, the 8th episode of Season 8. This is the one where Ned's faith is tested after Hurricane Barbara destroys his house. That is, it destroys his house and only his house. Oh, and people loot the Leftorium for good measure. Ned has a mental breakdown, landing him in Calmwood Mental Hospital. It is there that we learn about Ned's parents and his childhood. As it turns out, he was a little shit as a result of his beatnik parents and their inability to discipline him. It's also how we learn that his odd style of speaking is a result of his treatment for this misbehavior as a child. Called the University of Minnesota Spankological Protocol, he was subjected to continuous spanking for 8 months. This treatment left him unable to express anger or frustration in any way. Homer's brought in to help Flanders tap into his frustration so he can learn how to deal with it more constructively. This works, of course, and Flanders is able to go home. He is once again the nicest man in Springfield, but if you really tick him off, he's gonna run you down with his car. So this episode is full of fun stuff too. Flanders can't file an insurance claim for his destroyed home because he doesn't have any insurance. Maud said that he considers it a form of gambling. When he goes to church and prays for guidance, he says, "I've done everything the Bible says, even the stuff that contradicts the other stuff." The fact that Ned's parents were lousy beatniks is great. His mom, talking about their discipline style, says, We've tried nothing, and we're all out of ideas. There's even a little cameo from Jay Sherman, star of the short-lived Fox cartoon The Critic. All in all, it's another classic episode. Our last episode is from season 10. This is episode 10, titled Viva Ned Flanders. It originally aired in 1999, about the time I stopped watching The Simpsons regularly. It has a few riffs on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but it also references Star Wars, Star Trek, Mars Attacks, Viva Las Vegas, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and according to Wikipedia anyway, Dante's Peak and Independence Day. The plot revolves around Homer finding out that Ned is 60 years old. He still looks so young because he never really did anything in his life, so Homer takes it upon himself to teach Ned how to live life to the fullest. This, of course, means a trip to Las Vegas. While there, Ned gambles a bunch of money away, drinks I don't know how many white wine spritzers, and gets legally married to a cocktail waitress. All in all, a fairly standard Vegas adventure, at least as far as TV is concerned. It's an episode full of great gags, but I think my favorite thing about the episode, though, is Ned's formula for aging gracefully. He just follows the 3 C's: clean living, chewing thoroughly, and a daily dose of vitamin church. Stupid, sexy Flanders. And that's as good a spot as any to wrap up our little Flanders rundown. I know I've been talking about Simpsons episode on this beer podcast for a long while now, but those 7 episodes are roughly the runtime of your typical Hollywood action movie these days. That's plenty of time to make your way through a big old bottle of Duchess de Bourgogne. So yeah, this was an atypical pairing, but Flanders Red is an atypical beer style. Nothing about it, from its production to its flavor, is what you expect in a beer. And that's awesome. These offbeat styles are what make it so rewarding to do these breakdowns. They show you how much diversity there is with beer. It's not all macro lagers and IPAs, you know. And that's about all I have for this one. I'll be back soon with another fun and exciting beer style breakdown, but until then, I would love to hear from you. Just search @Beer Blockbuster on your favorite social media app and you're bound to find something. You can also reach me via email, if that's more your thing, at beerblockbuster@gmail.com. Also, and I feel like I never remembered to mention this, but it would be great if you could rate and review the show on your podcasting app of choice, be it Stitcher or Spotify or Podcast Republic, which is my go-to, or whatever app you like to listen to podcasts on. Reviews help the show reach a bigger audience, which means a smarter beer-drinking population. And that is good for everyone, so please do that. I'll be back soon, and I'll miss you while I'm gone, so be safe, have fun, and good night, you nerd diddly-erds.